you so much for joining us. Let us give a special thanks to Zion Hill Baptist Church and Pastor Douglas Williams for hosting us tonight. I think we can do better than that. So thankful for Pastor Williams for opening his doors. He's always community oriented. Anything that he can do for the community, for the city of Newark, he's willing to do it, and he's done it even on a Tuesday night in hosting this town hall. I believe it is the first town hall that we've had from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Most times, I think that deserves I shared the news several weeks, and some attorneys said to me, that's rare because usually the U.S. Attorney's Office is always discreet, behind the scenes, never really in front of persons, especially taking questions from the community. But that's what this U.S. Attorney wanted to do. U.S. Attorney Philip Selinger said to me, Pastor, I want to be in the community. I want to be a part of the community. And so we pitched this idea around and around and around. And finally, along with his wonderful and phenomenal team, in which he will introduce in just a minute, all thought it was a good idea, and we decided to launch it from Newark, and then from Newark to go to other portions of the state of New Jersey, holding these town hall meetings. So can we give a warm welcome to the United States Attorney's Office. At this time, the wonderful host pastor, Pastor Douglas Williams III, will come and open. We in church, so we're going to have prayer. No matter what your religion is and who your God is, we're going to thank God for your God, our God. Amen? Amen. Pastor Williams, y'all give him a hand as he comes.
Good evening, and again, welcome to Zion Hill Baptist Church. We are so honored to be able to host tonight. Let us be together with God and one another as we pray. Oh Lord, it is in you that we live, move, and have our being. Every good and perfect gift comes from you. You're the one from whom all blessings flow. And it is in your divine presence that our souls take delight. We thank you for life, health, and strength, for your goodness, your grace, and your mercy. And we thank you for this gathering on tonight. We pray your blessings upon us as we go forward. We pray, oh God, that you would give us the wisdom and the knowledge, oh Father, to discuss our grievances, to have an open and honest dialogue so that we can continue to move forward, not only as a state, but as a nation. We thank you, Father, for all of those under the sound of my voice, for those who are viewing us online. We pray, oh God, that you would get the glory out of all that is said and done. This is my sincere prayer. I pray in the name of Jesus, and the people of God said, amen. Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor Williams, and certainly we're blessed tonight to have the Director of Public Safety for the City of Newark, my boss, Director Frangé. Can y'all give him a warm welcome tonight? We thank God for our Director of Public Safety, and as well as our Chief of Police, Chief Miranda. Can we give God praise for him tonight as well? So I'm thankful for the both of them joining us and partnering with the United States Attorney's Office so that we can have this wonderful town hall. It was Director Frangé and Mayor Baraka that loaned me to the U.S. Attorney's Office to help put this together. So I'm thankful to the both of them. At this time, let me present the United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey. He has a compassionate heart. He loves the community. He's a trendsetter. He wanted to be different. And some of you historians, if you all can look up whether a U.S. attorney has ever been inside of Newark in the South Ward to hold a town hall meeting with the city of Newark. If y'all can find any U.S. attorney that's ever done that, y'all please let me know. But we have one in our midst today. And so let's welcome U.S. Attorney Philip Selinger at this time.
Thank you, Reverend Sliler. Thank you, Public Safety Director Frangé, for loaning Reverend Sliler to us to use his word. Thank you to the church and to Pastor Williams very much for being such gracious hosts to allow us to have this town hall here tonight. And thank all of you for joining us tonight for this dialogue. We all are part of a U.S. Attorney's Office that is your U.S. Attorney's Office. We represent you and the citizens of the state. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to just open a dialogue, let you understand better what we do and the role that we play to allow us to better serve you in our jobs. Let me start by introducing myself and my colleagues up here with me. I was nominated by President Biden and confirmed by the Senate last December, so I've served as U.S. Attorney for just less than 1 year. I have spent much of my professional career with ties to Newark. As a young attorney in the early 1980s, I was an assistant U.S. attorney in the office that I now have the great privilege of leading. After that, I spent 18 years with a Newark-based law firm that some of you may have heard of called Sills Cummis. Some other names along the way got added and subtracted. After that, I spent 19 years at another law firm, but during that time, I served on the board of the New Jersey Law Empowerment Project, New Jersey League, which helps Newark high school students and students from other communities, you're shaking your head, which is great, prepare for college, and on the board of the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. But perhaps most importantly, and my strongest link to Newark, is that my daughter spent 7 years teaching 3rd grade here in Newark before she moved on to Patterson. So with me today on the far left is Carolyn Sedlowski. She is counsel to the U.S. Attorney. Lee Cortez, who is executive U.S. Attorney. Jamal Semper, who is Deputy Chief of the Criminal Division, and Mike Campion, who is Chief of our Civil Rights Division. Let me start by just giving you a very short history on the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice. So we are part of the United States Department of Justice. And the United States Department of Justice was created in 1870. In the wake of the Civil War, in the middle of Reconstruction, during a time when the Ku Klux Klan was murdering and lynching thousands of black citizens in the South, depriving them of the right to vote and otherwise attacking their constitutional rights. And that is the context under which the Department of Justice was first created. And during that time, in the early 1870s, the Department of Justice brought thousands of cases prosecuting KKK members and obtained thousands of convictions. And that period of time during Reconstruction is viewed as, and the KKK's activities at the time, the greatest domestic terrorism threat in U.S. history. And the DOJ was created to fight that, and they did. Fast forward to the 1960s, during the Civil Rights Movement. I'm old enough to remember, and most of you do not appear to be, but there may be a few people who actually are, who are old enough. But during that time, the Department of Justice accompanied black students who were barred admission to universities by university officials and governors in a number of states. And Department of Justice officials accompanied those students and forced those universities to admit those students. So that's sort of the background of the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice. So let me try and bring you current. So when I became U.S. Attorney in December, shortly thereafter, we created a Civil Rights Division, which brought together criminal and civil rights attorneys who focus exclusively on protecting the civil rights of the citizens in this state. And it has proven to be a force multiplier. We've added additional resources, and it's a very active division that we believe is greatly enhancing our abilities to protect the civil rights of everyone in New Jersey. And there are several additional members of the Civil Rights Division who are here today sitting in the front row to my right. To give you a sense of the areas where we're involved in civil rights first, and then I'll turn to violent crime and guns. But in civil rights, we are very active and have had a number of cases in the area of policing and police misconduct. So everybody's familiar with the George Floyd case. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Minneapolis prosecuted that case. The state did as well, but there was a federal trial where the lead defendant Chauvin pled guilty, and the other 3 officers were charged and convicted for failing to intervene when they were required lawfully to do so. More recently, the Breonna Taylor case from Louisville, I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. The U.S. Attorney's Office has charged the officers there who filed affidavits in support of search warrants, which were false and led to that tragedy, as well as charging the police officer who from the street shot up the apartment. Here in New Jersey, my office recently prosecuted 5 police officers in Patterson who stopped, assaulted, and robbed citizens of the state, and went to trial against, got pleas from the 5 officers on the street, but went to trial and got a conviction against the sergeant who coordinated that. The man, a women's correctional facility, our office brought a pattern and practice case and a consent decree against that facility, stopping it from assaulting female prisoners. So this is an area where police departments are phenomenally important to all of us in helping protect our communities, because violence can destroy communities. And police officers are our first and best lines of defense, and we are certainly all grateful to the police departments for their work in that effort. But where there are violations of constitutional rights, and they're a tiny percentage of the officers who are out on the streets, but where they violate constitutional rights, that can devastate the community as well. So here in Newark, 5 years ago, my office made findings of unconstitutional policing by the Newark Police Department and entered into a consent decree. And over the last 5 years, we have worked arm in arm with the Newark Police Department to help them implement new procedures which have transformed the police department. And I can tell you that today, we have no better partner in our violent crime initiative efforts than the Newark Police Department. And we thank Police Director Frage and his predecessor for their partnership in that effort. Let me move to hate crime. So hate crime is another area which is very important in our enforcement efforts. So in Buffalo recently, there was a shooting in a supermarket, as many of you probably know. Federal charges were brought in that case. Charlottesville, there was a shooting in a church that many of you are familiar with. Federal U.S. Attorney's Office prosecuted that case as well. We brought a case involving a landlord who discriminated against tenants, including LGBTQ tenants, in terms of the lending, in terms terms of the landlord practices and the like, and entered into the largest settlement in U.S. Department of Justice housing cases in history in that field. And more recently, we have pending criminal charges against the defendant who carjacked and stabbed on the basis of religion, religiously identifiable members of the Orthodox Jewish community, and recently a charge the defendant alleged in the complaint with publishing a manifesto to blow up a synagogue. So domestic, today, the FBI deems domestic extremists as one of the greatest threats on a law enforcement basis. So the FBI and we spend a lot of efforts in that area. Redlining. Redlining is a practice that was fairly prevalent in the 1960s and 1970s, but unfortunately continues even today. Redlining is the practice of a lender, a bank or a lender, refusing to lend in certain communities on a discriminatory basis. We recently brought a complaint and entered into a consent decree with the Lakewood Bank for engaging in redlining here in Newark. And under the consent decree, they are required to open a new branch in Newark and create a $30 million loan subsidy fund, which will create it's designed to create about $130 million in loans, which is the amount of loans that were deemed prevented by the redlining practice. And redlining, the failure to give loans, prevents the accumulation of wealth. I mean, as you know, if you want to buy a house, you want to buy a business, you've got to go to a lender. And if you're not able to do that, the ability to accumulate wealth is greatly diminished. So that's redlining. We've been very active as well, have resources in environmental justice. Lead paint is a problem here in Newark, and there's an environmental justice initiative in the Department of Justice to address those issues. We have resources dedicated there. Let me turn to guns and violent crime, but before I do that, just briefly, let me talk about the difference between the United States Attorney's Office, the State Attorney General's Office, local police department, because the jurisdictions and authorities are different, so you just understand the approach. So, local police department, part of Newark Government Authority. The New Jersey State Attorney General, they have responsibility for violations of state law, laws passed by the New Jersey legislature, signed by the governor. The United States Attorney's Office, our jurisdiction is violations of federal law. And usually violations of federal law involve multiple states. And that's what creates federal jurisdiction. So if you've got gun trafficking, a network that moves guns from North Carolina or Pennsylvania, and they end up in Newark, that's a matter of federal jurisdiction. If you have a local assault here in Newark, it doesn't involve a gun, it doesn't somehow economically or otherwise touch another state, or a federal constitutional right, which is another area of federal jurisdiction, then usually it's not an area that we'll be addressing. So, gun violence obviously is a national epidemic, and everyone's aware of that. Actually, here in Newark, I mean in New Jersey, but in Newark in particular, the statistics for shootings and murders has gone down, and it's lower not only today than it was at this point last year, but over the last 5 years. But nationally, I think most people are aware that there is an epidemic, and notwithstanding the successes here in New Jersey, to be sure that every shooting and every senseless act of violence is a tragedy. So law enforcement, U.S. Attorney's Office, State Police, the Newark Public Safety and Police Department all devote all the resources at our disposal to try and attack that problem. So we created in 2017, under my predecessor, a violent crime initiative that brings together federal, state, and local partners, so every federal agency with the initials, FBI, DEA, ATF, and the like, the state attorney general, the Newark Police Department, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and we target the drivers of violence, the gangs, the organized criminal activities, the larger organizations. And they meet on a very regular basis, talk about each of the incidents, each of the drivers, the best way to target them, the best way to prosecute them, and whether they ought to be prosecuted in federal or state court. And our efforts at the U.S. Attorney's Office are largely directed to the drivers of violence, the larger organized activities. Doesn't mean that other cases won't be prosecuted, but they might be prosecuted by the state rather than us. And the major effort is to attack the flow of guns and drugs, into our communities. And we have a lot of resources directed to that effort. Now, we also have a reentry court where citizens who have been incarcerated, when they come back in society, are given the opportunity to enter into a program that will help ease their access, help provide a number of services to help them be successful coming back into society. Cassandra Dock, who may be here, is one of our important community partners over there. Hello. In that regard, we also have a federal cops court, which allows non-violent, and I emphasize non-violent drug offenders, potential alternative paths to incarceration. There are also a number of services for victims and victims' rights that we're involved in. But there are certainly a number of challenges with respect to violent crime prosecution and guns. So one of them is federal jurisdiction, and we as the U.S. Attorney's Office only have jurisdiction, as I said, when another state is involved or there's what's called interstate commerce. So that's a limitation in certain cases. And there are also challenges prosecuting juveniles, and juvenile crime is an ever-increasing problem, and the federal policy limits our ability to prosecute juveniles if there's a state system that either provides rehabilitation or a path for prosecution. And then under the state system, oftentimes juvenile defendants are released back into the streets, so that's certainly a problem. I'm going to pass this on in a moment to my colleague, Mr. Semper, to talk a little bit more about violent crime prosecution initiatives and the challenges. But let me end up simply by saying that for us, communication is really the key. I mean, we need to have a dialogue with you and with others in the community. People need to feel comfortable reporting crime. They need to feel comfortable cooperating with law enforcement, because
Wingfield Hill as well. So let's give it up for Uncle Larry Ham as he comes.
Good evening, everybody. Power to the people. I'm so glad to be here. Pastor Williams, thank you for opening your beautiful church up for this event tonight. This is my first time here. I hope it won't be my last. But the people of the community have many concerns, and thank you, U.S. Attorney and your staff, for coming out, and thank you, Pastor, for organizing this event. The people of this community have many concerns, and I'm sure you're going to hear about all of those concerns from various persons tonight. I'm here tonight to express one concern, and that is the issue of police brutality. We want police brutality to end in our communities in Newark and across the state. And we feel that enough is not being done in this regard. A number of families, Attorney Sullinger, are here tonight who lost family members to police brutality. And I hope you will allow those families a chance to express their concerns about their particular cases to you. The People's Organization for Progress for 7 years has protested every Monday in front of the federal building at 970 Broad Street about the issue of police brutality. It has taken 7 years for me to finally see someone in person from that office. 7 years. So we would like the United States Attorney's Office for New Jersey to investigate the following cases. The murder of Carl Dorsey, who was killed here in Newark, New Jersey. The racial profiling of the Rodwell Spivey brothers. The attack on Zakai Hussein in Bridgewater, New Jersey. The murder of Major Julia Dale III in Newton, New Jersey. The murder of Bernard Placide Jr. in Inglewood. The shooting and paralyzing of Juwan Henderson in Trenton, New Jersey. The murder of Hassani Best in Asbury Park. And while the U.S. Attorney's Office successfully convicted officers in the Earl Faison case, those officers were only convicted on conspiracy and civil rights violations. No one was held accountable for the murder of Earl Faison, who was murdered in a jail cell in Orange, New Jersey. The county prosecutor of Essex County failed to even convene a grand jury. We demand the reopening of the case of Earl Faison. We demand justice for Philip Pinnell, who was 16 years old when he was shot in the back in Teaneck. Officer Gary Spath was not convicted in that case, but we demand a civil rights investigation into the murder of Philip Pinnell. We demand investigations into the murder of Jameek Lowry in Patterson, Jaquil Fields in Patterson, Jerome Reed in Bridgeton, Kashad Ashford in Lyndhurst, Abdul Kamal in Irvington, Jaquid Graham in East Orange, Basir Farrell, who was killed right here in the South Ward of Newark, Rashid Fuquan Moore, who was killed on 14th Street in Newark, Randy Weaver, who was left to bleed to death, and 14-year-old Radaz Hearns, who was shot 7 times in the back in Trenton, New Jersey. We demand civil rights investigations into these cases. And we demand the establishment of a police review board with subpoena power. Attorney, you referred earlier to the investigation of the Justice Department into the Newark Police. There were 4 areas of recommendation, and one of those areas was civilian oversight of the police. The mayor of this city attempted to establish a police review board, and the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge number 12 went into Superior Court and stopped it. So we can't have a police review board with subpoena power. If the police review board does not have subpoena power, it does not have any enforcement authority. So we need action on the issue of police brutality. Attorney, in your opening remark, you referred to the conviction just yesterday of the mass murderer, the racist white supremacist who murdered 10 people in the supermarket. Military, they really
our investigation
First off, I want to give your office a lot of credit for being here. Because black people and Hispanic people are not used to this. That's honest. So we commend you. My name is Rick Robinson. I serve as the New Jersey State Conference NAACP Criminal Justice Chairperson, and I also serve as the chairperson for the Civilian Complaint Review Board in Newark. So first off, I'm a product of police brutality every day. When I stopped 1 year in college, I would stop on the way to school and back from school, and on my way to work and back from work. So I'm familiar with these grounds. The consent decree that was in place, it should be extended even more. So we have not rectified the problems that actually associate with the people in the city that have been harmed. That's number one. Number two, I want to commend your office on a number of cases. The satanic case, a man was actually the landlord and he was getting sexual favors from individual women to actually have their rent paid. That was done by the U.S. Attorney's Office. The Afrikan case, women, inmates were getting raped by correctional officers. That was handled by their office. So, again, we thank you, but we have a lot of problems. So, we recently had a panel discussion, and Mike is familiar with this. We had one of your attorneys was a panelist, served as a panelist with the FBI, and it was absolutely incredible. But this is the thing that actually bothers me right now: housing. Housing in Newark is the problem, not just regular housing. It's a situation regarding this. I have a person who has a Section 8 voucher, gets $1,500 from the federal government. She has 3 kids. She's by herself. She's black. What is the U.S. Attorney's Office going to do to help her because she lives in squalor? Come on. Squalor. Come on. This cannot be acceptable. It's the norm. No way. And I know this is a civil rights problem. So I would suggest that everybody in here indicate to your office with a strong effort that we need something to be done. Because a woman with 3 kids with bugs crawling all over her 2-bedroom apartment, and there's a person that's actually getting monies from the federal government, and they're doing nothing to fix her apartment, that is a crime by itself. Yes, sir. That is unacceptable. Nothing. Now you say that there's a problem with guns and drugs and stuff like that. What is a person to do when they grow up around this? They're just fortified with this negative thoughts. They can't do anything. They're thinking like, I'm supposed to live like this. This is how it's supposed to be done. But again, this is not just 1 or 2 people. This is a lot of people. It's a lot of people. A lot. We need something to be done by your office. We really do. I want to thank Pastor. First of all, he's my pastor. So he actually called me 7 of the year. But I also want to thank your whole team, because you have done some remarkable work. But the reason why Larry Ham just read off a whole bunch of a laundry list is because these things have been piling up and nothing has been done. And this is why we're honored that you're here today. We are. And we're very thankful. But the NAACP sees more to this. In Newark, under President Deborah Smith Gregory, and in the state, under State President Richard Smith, we want to see a task force that's going to actually have individuals participate in addressing the wrongdoings, because, as you just said, sir, you have lawyers working hard to do this. We can help.
That's right.
We can help. We can show you the people that are suffering, paying, maybe they're paying $300 or $400 a month, but they live with bugs, rats, holes in the wall. These things are not actually good for a human being.
That's right.
And it's happening here in Newark.
All over.
It is. It's happening in Newark. So we welcome you to come and do a town hall and circle around and get the confidence of people. But this is the thing: when you get the confidence of the people, you have to produce.
Yes, sir.
And believe me, I talk with Mike all the time, and I actually thank Mike for everything he did. I mean, that situation with Edna Mahan, that was atrocious. They're raping women, and they're still doing it. Our governor promised us that, we're going to close it down. It has not closed down yet. It has not. But I applaud your efforts, and actually, I think you brought like 20-something people to justice in their certain prison terms. That's great. That's great. You took care of the guy Satani regarding getting sexual favors for his apartments. That's great as well. But I'm quite sure you're going to hear a lot of problems from these people in Newark regarding other issues that your office can take on. And again, on behalf of the NAACP in Newark, New Jersey, under President Deborah Gregory, and on behalf of the New Jersey State Conference NAACP, under State President Richard T. Smith, we thank you. But we're looking to be a partner with you. We are, because we want something to be done. Again, Pastor, you didn't tell me I was speaking today, but I'll talk to you about that later. And listen, we actually welcome you for being here. Thank you so much.
And we would really welcome continuing the dialogue with you on several of those topics. I know that Mike and his organization have constant interactions with the NAACP. I actually meant in my initial remarks to call out the work that you and your organization have done in connection with the Edna Mahan case, where I know you were a really strong community partner there and in other areas. So we applaud the work you're doing, and we would very much look forward to continuing a dialogue to address issues that, and investigate issues that are within the federal jurisdiction.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, Director Lakeisha Bury will come with her question at this moment, and then following her, Director Kalisha Wingfield Hill, and then we would take questions for 3 or 4 from the congregation as well.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having this forum in Town Hall tonight to be able to hear the residents and to be able to hear the people who matter that's on the grounds doing the work every day. My name is Keisha Yuri, Director for the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery. Executive Director Kalisha Wingfield Hill is here sitting in the back representing Brick City Peace Collective. The Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery was created in 2020 as part of Mayor Bryce J. Baraka's mission to reimagine public safety. The office addresses violent crime and trauma by providing improved access to social services, intervention programs, and approaching violence as a public health issue. So we know that we cannot arrest our way out of this issue around violence and crime in our city. And so we have a community-based approach to doing this work, and many of us have been doing this work for years without any funding, without any money, because it's passion work, because it's hard work, because it's thankless work, and because a lot of this has landed on our doorsteps where we have had family members who've been shot and killed in sexual assault and domestic violence. And so those who are closest to the problem is closest to the solutions. And those are the people who are sitting here tonight. And so we have several community-based organizations, Newark Community Street Team, Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, our Hospital Violence Intervention Program. We heard Larry Ham speak about the police brutality, we have NAACP, and several other entities that are not here but that are represented. And so we want to really talk about our systems in terms of our victims of violent crime compensation, some of the things that we, ultimately have had changed, but there's still changes that need to happen with our victims of violent crime compensation. And we want to make sure that the resources goes into the hands of the people that need it the most. And so how can we make sure that happens? How can we decrease the red tape to make it easier for us to be able to receive funding? All of the organizations here are ultimately now being able to get funding, but have been fighting and being in competition with each other over funding. And ultimately the city has provided funding because we reallocated 5% of the police department's budget, and we are a clearinghouse to be able to give the money back to community-based organizations, and we're figuring out that infrastructure, but the state has funding, right? The state has money, and so how can we make sure that funding gets into the hands of the people that need it the most with the least amount of red tape possible? We have our domestic violence issues, our sexual violence, opioids, our drug overdoses are tremendous. We have overdoses happening at a rapid rate, and that's happening throughout the state. But the resources and the funding that needs to be allocated to community-based organizations into our funders. And we want to make sure that the information is available and accessible. How do we make sure we get the information? A lot of times by the time we get it, it's late, or we are, scrambling, to be able to provide and get the grants. But ultimately, what can the Attorney General's office, what can the state do to be able to help us to be able to do our community-based work more effective, better, with the least amount of red tape? That's all. That's my question.
Department of Justice does is administer grant programs to the community. It's a lot of money, right? And there are a lot of protections around it. There are a lot of limitations on the U.S. Attorney's Office getting involved, but we can definitely help get the information out about the process. And I know what you mean about getting it in time, because it takes a really long time to put one of these packages together and do it right and make it successful and get your partners in the room. But we would be really happy to communicate with you when this is coming. I'm happy for anyone who's interested to come talk to me afterwards. I'll give you my information, and we'll make sure that we have a free flow of information on this, because it's really important for our communities.
I first would like to thank you, AG, for even responding to them, the organizations. But you were supposed to come to the residents. So I think the dignitary response should have been put in the back, and we should have been in the front.
I agree.
I also would like to thank Caroline for responding so quickly to me last night. I had seen it like about, 7, 8 o'clock last night. You seen it? I seen it. And within 3 minutes, I said, okay. I said, what? I said, I got to talk to this lady. She real quick. She Johnny on the spot. But I'm going to tell you this. I'm in the house of the Lord tonight, and I'm a Christian woman. I don't give anybody say about my mouth, but God knows my heart. I can't stand in the church and lie. Let me tell you this. You want to know what the problem is? When you come outside the FBI building in front of 970, just look to your left. 924th Street. That's our problem. Nobody's not going to say anything, but I'm going to say it. We have a problem. Where is the mayor and the other 7 council people? To reach you for your first time coming to the community. We got a house full of people. We got 2 reverends, because we're in the church, I'm going to say that, but they're council people. Okay? We need questions. So, by the way, I was on a Zoom call this afternoon with the DCR, Criminal Civil Rights for Housing. I am the housing tenant advocate for the city of Newark, but also for the state of New Jersey. I have traveled up and down these roads, even been in North Carolina. And advocates don't get recognized. We don't get recognized. I was also appointed by the mayor and the council as the fair housing officer, and I attend the meetings to get my certificates and keep updated with civil or civil discrimination, our civil rights. But we can't talk about no white and black people and all this other stuff when we got people right here in our city, our own kin, that's doing us wrong. I can't blame no other white person when I have my own kin. They don't like the way I come across. But this is the only way I know how to come across when I'm aggravated and hostile and not being heard. We are people who want to be heard. We are people who want to be answered. I've been coming to the mic at City Hall since 2014. And I've seen things get worse and not better. So I'm going to say to Mr. H, if you want to stand up and listen to us tonight, just take notes and address our issues, because I gave you a lot. You got to, before you deal with that federal crossing state line stuff, because I got some stuff that cross state lines. The lies people tell on the people at the Riviera, they kidnapping babies. Or I've seen you the emails too. But the city council had to step 1 foot down there and address them. Like the people we elected ain't take 1 foot down there and address these people who had been told on September 29th that they had to be out by September 30th.
All right, Sister Felicia.
All right, well, yeah, I got hold this. I sent you
All right, thank you so much. Let's give her a hand. Just a minute, and that's the thing. The U.S. Attorney is trying to address.
So I'll be brief because I talked to
But he has to address what she just put forth. You don't need to hear it tonight? Okay. All right. And let's keep the question very brief. If you look behind you, there's a line going all the way out the door of persons that really want to address the U.S. Attorney.
So
I'm on my time, brother. I'm on my time. All right.
So I'm Cassandra Dodd. Everybody that don't know me, I'm Cassandra Dodd. So, I'll be brief because I do, I've been having a relationship with this office for a long time. Caroline, we talk a lot. Thank you, Phil, for acknowledging me. I just want to briefly ask, because you talked about the $130 million that was going to be allocated for, I think you said, is it going to be for home buying? I just need to know, and Caroline, you could send me an email. Who initiated that? Where did that come from, and what banks are going to be involved? Because we can talk about, gun violence, we can talk about that all day long, and we address it at the local level. We thank you that you guys came in and helped us with the federal decree. It still needs to stay. Somebody said that earlier, stay, don't ever leave. Newark needs to stay under the radar. That's one. And then the second thing I want to ask you is, Joe D'Ambrosio, before he passed from the Newark Teachers Union, put forth a suit when KIPP Charter School, and the only word I know to use right now is, well, I'll say illegally to me, illegally maybe stole 18th Avenue from the Newark Board of Education, which is the Newark Board of Education right now. How do I find out what's the status of that suit? Where can I find it out at? I do remember you, young man, from the state, from our Superior Court. So I watched you in action. So where do I find that at? And again, I'm glad you guys are here. Thanks for the money that you sent in here, because a lot of money was sent in here. A lot of money. So we're not lacking. And organizations have gotten money, so we're not lacking. The young lady that spoke about it, I love her, that's my girl. Dear, I love her with all my heart. But we're not lacking, because we have done this. A lot of us have done this without money, and I'm glad that a lot of us have paved the way for organizations to now get money. So they're not lacking, they have money. We just want to see some new organizations maybe get money, because we paved the way for them too, and we're glad we did that. So again, just need to know where that $130 million, who initiated that, and because I need to kind of communicate, I don't know if it's the CFB Protection Bureau, and I write them all the time, I can't even think of the name right now. I just want to see who did that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, the redlining case, the $130 million. So, a consent decree has been entered into between the United States and Lakeland Bank that requires Lakeland Bank to devote $13 million to a loan subsidy fund. And that fund is designed to provide deposit, help people with deposits, satisfy the terms of loans and the like. And The analysis is that that $13 million loan subsidy fund should help allow $130 million, rough numbers, in lending, which is roughly the amount of money that was calculated as having not been loaned under the redlining practice. So that's that issue. In terms of the educational suit, you can reach Caroline afterwards. And what our office does is, and this goes to some of the other comments as well, we are limited by our jurisdiction. So there are matters that the U.S. Attorney's Office has jurisdiction over if it involves a federal constitutional issue or interstate commerce crossing state lines. But if it doesn't involve any aspect of federal jurisdiction, we just don't have authority over it. And but what we do have is, if you reach out to the U.S. Attorney's Office, somebody will contact any citizen and either respond if it's something within our authority, or if it's not, try and be a resource to advise folks of where they can go to ascertain information or to address something that is just not something that we have authority over. Mike, do you have anything else on Lakeland?
You asked when that would be implemented. So the consent decree was entered into just 2 months ago. So the bank needs to hire an expert to do a credit needs assessment. That expert's subject to our objection. We need to approve them after they do the credit needs assessment. Then the loan subsidy fund will be provided in terms of home loans to people in Newark to purchase homes or get home equity loans. So that will not be immediate, but should happen within the next year or so.
I want to thank my family member, this is his church, for letting us be here tonight.
Said all power to the people. Man, all power to the people. Hey, look, what's up? What is it? Southern, right? Hey, man, my name is Afrika. I think this conversation gonna be like what everybody said. Hey, look, we don't feel the federal government is doing anything for us. When I say we, I mean the people making about 30,000 and less, like the majority of people that live in Newark. What's going on out here? These politicians, the people that's sitting up here, they don't represent the people getting kicked out of their homes. Like when you came up here, you said something. You said the police, a small percentage of them are the one doing the bad stuff. Man, all of them suck. We're having a problem with the institution of policing in our community, the entire institution. We're not having a problem with 1 or 2 officers. You started your career in 79. That's when I was born. In 79, I'm a black, the first black, whatever, judge or something like that. None of that stuff matters. We deal with class. Since 79 till now, our condition, the residents in North New Jersey, has gotten worse, worse, and worse. Nothing has changed. Our lives have not gotten better. You live in a mansion called Sunnymead or something like that. We live down in Catholic Spires, where they're kicking people out. The landlords are coming in, dragging people out of their beds, and taking them out the house and locking the door illegally. Those people are now in jail. They are forging documents to the United States government. We have the evidence. They're forging documents to get people tax information. They have organizations that are here spying on people to see if they're doing great in hair, if they're making extra money, so they can up their rent. The average person that lives in this community can't afford to live here. There was a report done by Rutgers. This ain't Afrika saying it. The report was done by Rutgers, the Rutgers crime report, who owns Newark. And they said we don't own it. They said that the houses, the homes in our city are owned by corporations. They said none of this stuff is illegal. None of it is illegal. Because in 2010, laws was passed to make it legal. So when I say we don't feel like the federal government is helping us, our schools have been terrorized, they've been privatized, the police are coming in front of people's houses and kidnapping their children, their sons and daughters. They're here. They're behind me. This is something I'm making up. It's not euphemism. They're here. The Rottweiler Spiky brothers. I had to go create a podcast. We had to go to rallies to try to fight for their rights. I went to the mayor's office to speak to the mayor. They told me they had guns. They had guns in their fanny packs. The police got the recording. I didn't see the recording. I told them they're lying. You know how I know? Because I've been here my entire life. I went to Sussex Avenue, Bellsborough Middle, Alexander, Westside, Essex County College, and I graduated from Keene. So I've been here my whole entire life. I know the police are corrupt. This is a banana republic. If all these people that are coming up here won't tell you the truth, won't speak for these poor people that live in here, I'm doing it. It's on record. We are not being served by the federal government. Our taxes, because I work at Amazon, I deliver packages, because I refuse to work down in City Hall and anywhere else where they're going to corrupt me. They're going to make me one of them to pay my bill. I refuse. With 3 degrees after walking out of prison, I refuse. I would beg over and get tired before I allow these people to corrupt me. Because that's who I am. I am sincere. And I don't know you. I never met you. But if you're sincere and you're righteous about what you're doing, then where's the investigation on all these people? Well, there's a brother behind me. His son was killed 2 years ago, New Year's. Big bullet pulled up, it's on video. Bah, bah, bah! Killed him, he's dead, he's never coming back. None of those officers are locked up. I don't even think you spoke to the family. I mean, I'm guessing. But I know, like, we don't get no voice out here. So I know you ain't speak to them. And now we come here, I'm not coming here to beg you, sir, mister, No, I'm coming to tell you you're tired of being oppressed. These are colonies we're living in. And none of these politicians, these churches, none of these people are serving us, the taxpayers. And when people come up here and have all this, sit up here, excuse me, sir, like this church and all of that, this shouldn't be here. You should be on the number box in Canada or on First Street at the buildings and on this in the hotel down on Martin King, the Riviera. You should be talking to those people. What's going on? But we get the fake teachers, we get the fake activist groups that are getting funded by the city, by the state, to come up here and speak for me. They don't speak for me. I'm a Black Panther. Black Panther means you work for the community. Now we own our own institutions. We own our communities. We own the business in our communities. That's what Pantherism is. I'm not in the KKK. I don't want to go get guns. We don't have enough guns to do none of that. I just want a school where my child can go to and be a productive member of a society. Not when he turns 18, 21, because it happened to my son too. Police pulled the car over, there's a gun over there, they say anybody in the car got that gun that's outside the car. So my son, that's a college student, I'm supposed to watch him play basketball now in New York. I stand here to tell you this. My son had to wait months. We had to get lawyers for them to finally say we're throwing that case out. Yo, that is violence. Drug dealers are not violent. Gang members is not violence. Giving people jobs where they can afford to pay rent, that's violence. Giving them education that's worthless, that's violence. Because all of that produces the gang members. You know this, everybody knows this. I ain't making this up. But we talk around it, and we bring people in fancy suits, and they come up here like they care about me, but they don't care nothing about me or my children. The schools are corrupt. The politicians are corrupt. The economic sector is corrupt. And what are you going to do about it? You got up, I got to go to my son here in Brooklyn. Come on, mama.
I don't know